probably our wind energy, like from the Mayan, like of just
Mm,
talking it out. Like, so I'm sure that we have. I hope I'm not speaking for you, but I'm sure you at some point have put your foot in your mouth because you just have this power of just speaking and you just say these things and you look back and you're like, shit, that's I shouldn't have said it like that, or I should have said
yes.
this
Yes,
something
you're talking
a
to
different
somebody with
way.
Mercury in Sagittarius, and you're asking if I ever had my foot in my mouth. Like, dude, it's like written in my stars to be like that. It's just like I and I think I've gotten a lot better, but I do feel like it just manifests sometimes of like I think yeah, you just really don't. I'll just be really thoughtless sometimes, and I'll just say shit, but then I'll realize like, oh my gosh, like
Shouldn't
my
have said it
bad.
like
But
that.
I, yeah, like or just a way, yeah, like it, like I won't be cognizant of like saying something, but it will just come out wrong, or somebody will just have a weird reaction to what I say, and I'm like, oh wait, I didn't mean it like that. Like I meant it like, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing like happens to
Yep.
me. Welcome to Cosmic Connect. I'm Frenchie.
I'm Blue, and we are going to do a little catch up, carpool,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're going to talk a little Starseed. Talk a little
Yes,
Starseed.
we're gonna talk about some aliens, some Arcturians. Definitely stay tuned.
I don't know if you do you have an inset? Can you do that at your
I
parents'
don't
house?
have one. I don't have one currently, so
Well, I will do this for the both of us.
yes, I will receive through the screen the. Ah, thank you, thank you. Oh, it feels
Ooh.
feels wonderful. Mm.
And it's frankincense, so it's our favorite smell.
The fave. Oh, I just really love frankincense. Like, oof.
Mm, it's one of my favorites. Let me check
Pretend that
cards
I'm
real quick.
spelling it right now.
Are you doing an oracle card? Should I do tarot or should I do my oracle cards today?
Yeah, I'm still with the fairy oracles. That's what we got out here. So,
All right.
the one I
Well,
got in
I
my
will.
hands is the fairy blessing card. So we're gonna do a fairy blessing card.
Okay. Then I'll do another holographic oracle card today.
Yes. Yo, I like, how could you get a bad message? It's holographic.
Right. Exactly. So, do
It's
you want to do
shiny.
catching up with us while we kind of shuffle here?
Yeah, let's shuffle. Like, tell me how your week is going. It's been a few days since we recorded our last episode. So
Yeah, we
tell me
are.
what's been going
What
on.
you audience members don't realize is we are calling this the what did we decide? The Riot Week, Riot
Oh
recordings.
yeah.
We are trying to get a bunch of episodes in before my whole world goes chaos. With a lot of fun, but it'll be really crazy to try to do a podcast and some of these things. So we are trying to get a bunch of recordings
Mhm.
in, and
Mhm.
so also on my end, I'm trying to do a bunch of things, getting ready for these couple of weeks. So my
Mhm.
big catching up with me story is last night Jeremy has a small little car and he really wanted to put an air intake on it, which is a pretty simple, easy pull out a few things and then put in this air intake. Hour and a half
Mhm.
job max. 45-ish minutes in, it starts like thundering and lightning and we're
Oh
like,
shit.
oh no, we gotta hustle. So we're trying to go fast. I'm helping Jeremy, so we're both doing this together, and it
Mhm.
starts to rain and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna pop up this canopy real quick to keep us dry,
Mhm.
thinking, oh, it's a quick little storm, no big deal. Oh no, it went from 0 to 60 in seconds, and my canopy was up, but it was filling with water in the top.
Oh no.
So
I've
I'm
seen that happen before, yes. It gets
and the
so
wind's
heavy.
blowing really crazy. So I'm like holding this thing down while Jeremy's trying to finish this job. Then we're getting really close. Well, then the like a lightning rumble thunder cracks, and it is so loud that it makes both of us jump. Like
Oh my
we
god.
were so scared. And
Uh,
so at this point, I turn into Jeremy is freaking out. At this point, I turn into that person that, even though I'm freaking out, I'm comforting everyone around me. That's what I do.
yes,
So I'm
that's
like,
your
"You're
thing.
fine. You got this. It's okay. I got." And I'm like holding the canopy, like encouraging Jeremy to finish the job. He gets down to just like we have to put the wheel well back in and then the tire back on.
Oh
And
my
he's like,
gosh.
"I don't know what to do. I'm like, just get the tire back on. We'll do the wheel well later." So he gets the or gets the tire on, but he's struggling to get it lined up so that you can put the lug nuts in.
Mhm.
And I'm like holding a flashlight, holding the canopy so that he can try to get in because it has now gone dark. It's like
Oh
7:30
no.
at night, 8 o'clock.
Oh no.
So we get the tire on, but by the point of us getting the tire on, it is now like hurricane rain, like buckets.
Oof.
And Jeremy's
Oof.
soaked. He's throwing stuff in the car as fast as he can. I'm trying to take the canopy down. He's trying to help me, but really is kind of hindering the process of me getting the canopy down. I'm like, you just get the tools, I'll get the canopy. Well, in the
Mhm.
process of getting the canopy down, it had filled with water. So it's one of those accordion style, so it kind of closes itself up. So as it's
Mhm.
closing itself up, the top I had thrown all the water out had filled again because it was raining so hard that when I squeezed it, water went shooting right up into
Oh
my face.
no.
And it's
Oh
pouring rain.
no.
And I think that's where I got my mascara and
Oh.
makeup all like just running down my face. We get up into our apartment, like we have hallways that are covered. So we're like in the
Mhm.
hallway and we look back outside and it is scary how heavy the rain is. The tree, we have this big pine tree that sits right out the end and it is just
Mhm.
moving. It was so intense and it ended as fast as it started. So about 45 minutes later, it like abruptly ended and it went from all we saw was the sky be yellow, but our I
Mhm.
talked to a friend today and she said the sky went from yellow to green to red to orange to yellow.
What?
And you could not see and it was just like a fog, like obviously like storm clouds, but all of these colors. And I was like, I looked at her, I go, that's some alien ass shit right there. She's like, dude, and the sky was making the wildest noises. And I was like, dang, I didn't
Oh
see all that.
shit.
And because we like hopped in the shower because we were covered in dirt because we were like
Yes.
running in the parking lot.
Wait, so
So,
wait, we gotta backtrack for 1 second.
yes, go for it.
So the sky went from
Yellow to
yellow to
green
green
to like a
to
red and then an orange and a yellow. So it started at
shoot.
yellow and ended at yellow, and yellow is usually typically I've always been told yellow and green are the 2 colors in the sky you should be most leery of because that's weather-wise, that can be like
Mhm, that's like a bad.
like tornado
Okay.
signs. So,
Oh
I
wow.
saw the yellow and was like, "Oh, man." I tried to capture a video
Yeah.
of it, and it did not show up on the camera. Like, it was just like it looked blue skies, and I was like, "What? Like, this is not
Whoa.
showing up." So then when I was telling my friend about this, she told me what because her and her husband are like watching out their backyard and they have a really big backyard so they can see a little bit more of the sky than what I can see from my apartment.
Mhm.
And I was just like, dang, like I missed that. I was like, but the thunder was crazy. Like it was rattling our whole apartment building. And there's probably, I mean, it's not a ton of apartments, but there's probably at least, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20. So like a
That's
decent amount, like 12,
wild.
15, something like that. So yeah,
Everything
it
was
was
shaking.
shaking. It was intense.
That
And
is some alien ass shit.
then the rest of the night was it was humid before the storm and then after the storm it was cool and easy breezy, chill, like, totally
Wow.
night and day difference. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yo, that's crazy. Have you ever like experienced things like that before? Like on that
I've
level? Like,
I've actually seen a tornado before, like, in the
mm-hmm.
distance, not, like, super, super full, like, what you see in movies, Twister, but I have seen, like, a tunnel cloud that is, like, forming, and I've been around when the sky has done green and yellow before, but I've never seen it do that wild of a spectrum, and she
Yo,
was like
that's
and it
cause
was
that's
in, like she
crazy.
said it was in a short time, like, I
Really?
can't remember what she said, how long, but she said
The
it was
sky went
very
red
rapid. Yeah.
to green. Like those are literally it was red and green
It
like
went from
in a
green
short
to
amount of
red,
time.
which is such a drastic transition.
That's so drastic. Like
Because green and red
what?
are on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yes, they are like literally opposites. So that's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah,
I don't think I've ever experienced anything like quite like that. I mean, I guess
yeah.
it's like blue and orange, but I've never seen like a green like to red. No.
Yeah, dude.
That's like that's mind blowing.
Mhm.
Oh, I have a card for us, and it's called
The
Blessing
blessing
of
of the
Belief.
belief.
Of belief.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
beautiful fairy. It's number 35, which comes out to 8.
Well, I think this
Boost
card could
8.
go with that a little bit. It's the magician.
Ooh. Ooh. Both we got like fiery colors
Well, this is
coming up,
holographic. I have my
Yeah,
light
but
set to a rainbow.
he's like
Too.
yellow with the red robes, and we got the yellow with
Yeah,
the red
yeah. Oh,
here.
yeah,
And then
totally.
the whole holographic background is kind of resembles this kind of like blue silvery background.
Mhm.
They both have
Totally.
one arm down and one arm up.
Ooh. I also think there's quite a bit of a belief to, you know, in the
Belief in
magician in
yourself
order to
to
really for
manifest.
magicians, skills to be anything interesting, you have to have some
Mm,
sort of like belief in what he's doing, you know. The illusion isn't as cool if
mm,
you have no like
mm-hmm.
care in seeing it out, you know.
Yes, like you need a lot of belief in yourself and in the energies around you to be able to be that person.
Is that a wand in his hand or is that a candle? Because they and this is just the Rider Smith or Smith and
Mm-hmm.
Way,
Right away?
Rider Way, yeah, Rider Way. Um, it looks like a candle with two flames from the end, but it's all white.
Yeah, it's like I always like, all
Is it
right,
a
yo, because I feel
scroll?
like they intentionally make things like kind of up for interpretation, but I always felt like it was a wand, like your magic wand, but like it also really looks like a like some type of like baton, like you're handing up the baton. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. It almost looks like
Really
a
like an
scroll
interesting thing
too.
too. Yes, it has like a scroll type of shape,
Yeah,
definitely. And like you said, it definitely looks like has like candle vibes too. So
yeah.
I don't know. I think
Whatever
that
he wants you
all
to
of them
believe it
are
is.
legit interpretations for
Yeah.
different, you know. That's really cool though. I like the magician has been coming up for me a lot this past like month or so.
Oh
And I
yeah.
feel like yeah, I feel like it's always a reminder of like your ability to manifest. Like you hold all the power. Like
Mm.
he's the one in the deck that has all the elements. He has a cup, he has a sword, he has a wand.
Mhm.
Um,
You know what? It has to be a wand. Oh, no, the wand's on the table, never mind.
and he has and the
Mhm.
pentacle too. And so like
Also,
it's
the infinity sign on it.
yes, it's saying like you have all the tools. You just have
Mhm.
to like be the magician with it now. You gotta shoot,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know, gotta do
totally.
that shit now. Time to do that shit. That's what I like. That's how I kind of like have been reading it.
I
Um,
think it's a good way to read it. I mean, there's obviously different interpretations of the magician, but I feel like um that concept of anything is possible is definitely always has come to mind for me when I think of a magician, just because anything is possible with a magician, right?
mhm,
Like
mhm.
we
Anything is
all have a little
possible.
magician in us.
Yes, and you have that power. Like you are the magician. Like you are the one who holds the magic. Like you are the one who gets to make anything possible. Like it's a very empowering card to me. One of the most like empowering cards of the deck.
Yeah, I think I'd
Magic.
agree. But
I love
yeah,
it.
I think it's because we're both like magic.
It's
Yeah.
magic. We love magic.
So
I think it's always a good sign. So
what
we
is
got a
the
blessing of
belief?
belief,
Yeah, what's the
which
story
is
behind that card?
card 35. Let's read it. Let's read our fairy blessing. Who doesn't want a weekly fairy blessing? Okay. A blessing of belief, card 35. The fairy gift of restoring and strengthening your faith in the fairy. Your belief in the fairy may have wavered at times as the human world invades your own enchanted space. This blessing brings to you the belief that will help you through your days, the unshakable conviction that you have allies and friends in the other realms, and they will be with you, assist you, dance with you, appreciate you. The gift of belief restores to you a lost piece of the soul, for when we lose our belief, a part of ourselves can fade and dim, becoming quietly sorrowful, lessening the brightness of our days. So, with this gift is returned to you belief, a sense that you and the fairies are entwined, one with the other, and your soul grows and becomes ripe again with belief. Let there be sureness in you, a quiet and loving conviction that there are indeed fairies, that you are part of that world, and the natural world is the holiest place we have been given. Despair shall lift, doubt will vanish, and you will be returned to the faith that will brighten this day and every day to come. Believe, fairy friend, for they believe in you. A gift of faith, of belief, is now yours.
Hmm, I like that. I like these fairy
Mm-hmm.
cards. I think they just sound
Aren't they cute?
they just take you
Like,
to like a whimsical place.
right? Like, that shifted the energy, like, woof,
Yeah.
hello.
How's it
Now we're
going?
now we're in faith. Yes, I think it is very cool how like both our cards lined up this week because it's definitely talking about like faith and magic
Yeah.
and faith in the magic.
Yes. They all are very key to each other.
Hmm. I love it. So, what else is going on?
What's y- what have you been up to the last couple days?
Oh yeah, so I've been still with my family. We've been like chilling. We love to play board games. Okay. Oh, do you want to hear what we did the other night? I did this with my brothers. We went to this like movie theater and we saw the Bob's Burgers movie.
Oh yeah.
Yes, but it was like a movie theater that had like they had beer on tap, but they also like you could just order whatever like while you're sitting in your seat and you just like write it down and you press a little button and then they come and like take it and it's like silent and they just like come back with your order and like everybody was very nice. But okay, so long story short, I wanted a salted caramel shake, but the guy like came up and he was like, "Oh, like our machine is broken, like we don't have salted caramel shakes." So I was like, in my head I was like, what is this, McDonald's? But I didn't say that.
McDonald's milkshake machine is always broken. I don't even go to McDonald's, but I have to hear about it from clients and stuff. It's always
Yes.
down. What is wrong with you, McDonald's?
So so anyway, then I'm like, all right, I just kind of like picked something on the page that looked good. And I was like, all right, give me a chocolate chip cookie. It was a little bit like, it seemed a little bit pricey for a chocolate chip cookie, but I'm like, we're in a movie theater. It's a whole experience, whatever. Yo, so the movie starts and they pull up with the cookies and my brother's beer and like all that. I look at the plate and it's like 3 big chocolate chip cookies that were like a grandmother was like behind the screen cooking these cookies in a freshly baked oven with her love and care, and like it came to me straight out the oven. Like they were amazing cookies. We got a whole other order halfway through the movie because the cookies were so dope.
So it was good, worth the
It was
price.
amazing. Long story short, it was amazing.
You have to stop the movie. We need to talk about these cookies real quick. Everybody needs to order these cookies. Grandma employed.
Oh my goodness. Great cookies, yo. Great cookies. So, anyways,
Was the movie good?
it was good. It was very enjoyable to watch with my cookies, and like it was interesting. I feel like there were some very deep symbolic things in there a little bit, but overall it was just like silly Bob's Burgers. And I think that like sometimes I feel like when they try to put a TV show and make it into a whole movie, like it can be a dicey area to go. I was worried at one point that it was going to be like a whole ass musical, and I'm not a huge fan of like when they do that. So it was not a musical. They didn't go anywhere that I was like, I hate this shit, I need to go home. That did not happen. It was like Bob's Burgers had some very fantastic moments. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I had a great time. It was good. It was a great experience.
You heard it here first. Bob Burgers is a good movie. Go watch it. I'm sure Jeremy
If you like
will.
Bob's Burgers, like if you don't like that type of thing, you would hate it.
Yeah,
But if you
fair
like
enough.
Bob's Burgers,
Fair enough.
worth watching the movie.
I love Bob's
Especially with
Burgers,
cookies
so
involved.
I will definitely be watching it at some point. I definitely need to see it.
Yes. Yes. It had some parts where I was like laughing very much out loud.
I'm surprised you don't like the musicals for someone that's in music. I'm a corny person that I love a good musical. I love to turn it into a musical. Give me a musical episode. I'm like, yes.
You know, I've like come a
They do
little
get
bit,
corny though. They do get corny, so I do get it.
yeah, and just like I don't know. Like I like especially when I was little, I just I don't know if this like just says too much about me, but like I hated like how happy musicals were. Like I loved like Les Mis. I loved like the sad ones, like the Phantom of the Opera that had like the more like minor key dramatic music, and like but most musicals that I had seen that like people seem to be so into, yeah, it's like I can't handle people like fake smiling at me and going like that the whole time. Like it was just like there's something off-putting about it. Like as far as like being somebody like who could sing, and I've been in musicals, but like I was in Les Mis, but I was not in like freaking Hairspray where they're like you have to be like this the whole time and like dun 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 everything is fabulous, wonderful, yeah, yeah. Like that was just like seemed like hell to try to do that for me. So I don't, that's just my personal preference, but
Makes sense. No, makes sense. I think a lot of people are like that, honestly. I feel like the super happy is just like
it's
it
almost
seems a little
off-putting.
it just doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem authentic. It's a
Yeah.
little too planned.
Yes, yeah, like it's like what am I relating to? Not that see, but then I'm like, wow, was I really that like freaking emo as a child? Where I'm like, I don't relate to this. It's just happy. Ugh.
Oh, we all went through it, I think. At least I did for sure. I think most teenagers go through a period of just being like, "Oh, please."
Yeah, like fuck everything. Ah, I love it. Yeah, it's like, like the older I've gotten, the like, and I feel like especially this year as I've been like kind of delving into certain areas of shadow work, like I realized how much I had rejected of myself from like my junior high years, which I feel like is when I was the most like that, like just like totally just letting my emotions run the whole show and like just super hormonal and just like ugh, like everything is trash, like fuck this, like I feel like I that was like that's a very tough time of life, but I realized how much I had rejected of myself from that time, and then like I had to go back with a lot of compassion and be like, yo, like that was a tough time. Like I love you, like middle school
Mm,
Jane, I love you, middle school Frenchie, and like
yeah.
let's have a hug. Like I'm sorry that I've been mean to you. I've like
Yeah.
shoved you down a lot like of this whole time, but you're pretty dope. Like you were very creative. Like I feel like my little creative and like my little like the sassy parts of me is like very much like junior high Frenchie. So
Mm,
I had to like come to more like love of that part of myself instead of trying to like pretend it doesn't exist. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, it's hard to do that. I was just talking about that earlier today, actually, just with different things that do not there are not my concern. I used to
Mm,
always take on the concern of others because it some way slightly affects me. So I have to worry about this thing. And I
mhm.
had to tell Jeremy, like, we don't need to talk about that because that doesn't concern me. Like, it's not, like, I
Mm.
can't control that. And that's not my problem. So I need to not
Yeah.
worry about it. And that's huge for me to like finally acknowledge, like, I don't need to worry about that thing. Like, that's not my job. It's not my responsibility. Like,
Wow.
just don't, let's not talk about it. Like,
Mhm.
that's not my MO usually. I will,
Yeah, that's like a cool it's like a new boundary almost, like an energetic boundary you
that's what I
created
said.
that's like,
That's
I'm
funny.
not. Yeah, that's what you said.
I said,
Ah,
this is
whoop,
weird. It's
same
like
wavelength.
I'm realizing this is like a boundary I have to set. Like, I've,
Mm,
I always hear people talk about boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And I'm just like, I don't really feel like I need to set boundaries. I mean, feel like if somebody
that's how I've
burns
always
me,
felt.
then yeah, of
Mhm.
course I'm gonna be like, yeah, don't do that thing again. Like that wasn't
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
But I guess there is things that would be good to be like, that's a boundary. And I guess I do have them. I just never really put it out there like that. I feel like that's such a
Yeah.
big thing in the spiritual world. I feel like it's
Mhm.
now getting more and more into it. I feel like everyone's always talking about watch your boundaries, make sure you're aware of your boundaries. And it's like, I have them. Like there's certain things like on Sunday and Saturday and Sunday, I typically don't worry myself with my salon phone. It exists, but I'm
Mhm.
not picking it up and touching it and like talking to people after a certain point in the night. And it's usually whenever I feel, necessary. But I'm usually never on my salon phone after 10 p.m. Like, why would
Mhm.
I be on there? We should
Yeah.
not be talking at 10 p.m. at night. Like,
Business hours, y'all.
yeah,
Business
yeah, yeah.
hours.
But, you know, having boundaries with certain conversations, I've just never really thought about it. Like,
Mhm.
because I'm pretty open. But when it comes to
Yeah.
like things that I know I will worry about if we were to talk about that thing, I don't need to do that. And that's
Mhm.
a fun new thing of being able to be like, okay, there's a boundary. Cool. Now I get
Yeah.
it.
I feel like it's very interesting just in this past week I feel like I've been understanding like deeper levels of boundaries too. Like that's very interesting that that's coming up for both of us. Like
Is it
for
being with
me
your
though,
family?
it's interesting like I don't think it is like from being with my family, but like I was in this forum and we were like they were like talking about boundaries and like the way that it was explained was just like, huh, interesting, because I feel like previous to that, like, I understand the concept of like boundaries and healthy boundaries, but like I don't think that, like, to me, the my question to myself and like what I kind of just, the way that I put it to myself is like, is it like a boundary or is it just telling somebody how I feel? You know what I mean?
Mm. Mm.
Because
Yeah.
like I think that sometimes people use boundaries as like, oh, you can't come past this point, but then at the same time it's like you're almost using it to as a defense to become vulnerable and just tell people how you feel.
Yeah, and that I think that's was actually exactly that has been my resistance to, like, setting
Mhm.
boundaries because I feel
Mhm.
like sometimes the uncomfortability makes you grow. Like, it makes you, like,
Yes.
confront some things about yourself.
Mhm.
And, of course, like, you know, we can the four agreements spin that everything is your own perspective and everything is happening to you or isn't happening to you, you're causing these things, or we can also acknowledge that sometimes you don't have any control over what other people are doing to you, but you
Mhm.
know saying your feelings should set a boundary, I guess. But I just always felt like that should just be communication, not so much of like, here's my wall,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, like, cause yeah, and I guess that's, like, the difference between, like, a healthy boundary, like, feels good, like but what I realized is too is, like, boundaries are really the most, like, to me, like, yes, it's great to talk to people about, like, your boundaries, but to me, like, the main thing is, like, your boundaries with yourself, like,
mm,
w if I and again, it goes back in the way that I, like, understand it, it goes back to knowledge of self and understanding of self and like and being honest with yourself about how you feel, because I can't tell anybody the correct way for them to be around me, and I can't express my needs and like how I need people to be interacting with me if I don't understand the ways in which people interact with me and the way that makes me feel. If I can't be honest with myself and say,
yeah,
"Oh wait, I don't like this," and then actually be able to enact it, like if you have good boundaries with yourself and you're strong with that, you don't, and this is just my understanding of it, it's like you don't necessarily even have to like to me it just goes back to explaining how you feel, because I don't have to be like, you don't do this, you don't do that, because then it's like, no, like I know what feels good to me, and like I can just tell you how I feel and what feels
yeah,
good to me. And I can have the, like, I think sometimes we tell people what our boundary is because we're afraid of ourselves not being able to like honor that.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah. That's
you know what I mean?
that's
Where it's like,
yes, I
mhm,
totally, yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
mhm.
I think
Instead
that
of like,
that's
where's your boundaries with yourself to like
yeah,
have faith that you can be your own boundary at all times.
right.
I don't know if that made sense, but that's like
I
the
mean,
best way I
I
know how to like
followed I
explain it.
followed you, so if it didn't
Mhm.
make sense to other people, there's gonna be some that it makes sense for, I think, because
Mhm.
I think there's, always people that are just like, "Yeah, that sounds good, let's do it," and then there's the people that are like, "What? I don't understand how that works," and I feel like that's basically where we're falling at. We're falling at the,
Mhm.
"Wait, I don't understand how that works," instead of being like, "Okay, I'm gonna set boundaries with everything in my life," like,
Mhm.
because I feel like
Yeah.
there are people that have like a hard list, like
Mhm.
the ABC, these things are not allowed about around me, by me, whatever. These are my boundaries, and I'm like, that's like, I I just feel like I ripped my blinders off years ago. I don't want to put them back on. It's kind of how
Mm.
I feel about doing that.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
but I do think that maybe the thing that does make sense about the boundary thing is I think that sometimes there's a healthy moment where you do need to put a wall up so you can work on
Yes.
yourself on whatever that thing is and then allow that to come back down and deal with that boundary
Mhm.
within yourself. I think that that's something that probably is explained somewhere by somebody, but I just haven't heard it. I just feel like
Yo,
everybody's
I
always
love
talking
how
about
you
their
put
boundaries,
that.
and I'm just like, ah, I don't like to live my life in a box.
We are boundless, limitless beings. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I feel you, and I also feel like it's definitely been in this past week, literally in this past week, where like I feel like it's almost like I feel like we're all saying the same thing. It's just that like one is using the word boundary. I'm just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we're all doing the same thing. Like we all know like or are on a journey towards like reinforcing like where we feel comfortable, where we feel good, and like sometimes it feels good to like stretch out of our boundary and like expand ourselves. That's how you can expand your consciousness in my eyes sometimes, is by like opening yourself to like a different possibility that to you before was like a hard boundary. But at the same time it's like you need to understand who you are, because you don't want to get just
Yeah.
no boundaries and get lost in the wish wash that you don't have an identity anymore, you know.
True. True. Yeah.
It's a balancing act, I think, like with everything else, it's a
Life.
balancing act.
Life in a nutshell right there. Yeah,
Life.
for sure.
Mhm.
Totally. I think that these star seeds don't live in boundaries. So I think that that's probably where some of that not making sense may fall.
Mhm.
Because as
Yes.
we were talking maybe before we actually started the episode, star seeds don't really like to follow bureaucracy and be stuck to these certain, it has to go this way because they see
Yes.
everything and they're just like they see before and after and past, and
Mhm.
just such so expansive their information that they have, that to have to fit, it just doesn't
It's
work.
hard. No,
So
it's hard to the point of really not being fully possible, I feel like, for many. And like, yeah, like I feel like the mission of so many star seeds as well is like to come and break down these systems, so then when we're living this human life and these systems that we're kind of here to like shake up a little bit are like coming down on us, it's like it can elicit very like deep reactions, whereas I feel like some people could be like, yeah, like cool, that happened, but it's not that big of a deal. And I think part of our lessons in coming here is to be able to like have that centeredness and that balancedness developed to where like we can go through that shit and not have it affect us so much. But it can be much of our like gut reactions to just like that shit. You know what I mean?
mhm, mhm, totally, totally. And I think that it's like if you've ever sat in a class or been in a room where they're teaching something you already know,
Oh my
but
gosh.
they're doing it in a way where they're like limiting the information you had learned, kind of thing. That's what
Mhm.
I feel like if you don't understand what it's like to just feel like none of this makes sense,
Mhm.
if you do not align or correlate with a star seed at all, just think of it that way. Like I feel like that's how those groups of people must feel, is like being in a room, you already know the lesson and they're
Mhm.
trying to teach it, but they're only teaching this much when it's really this much. Like
Mhm.
that's what that's like. And it just
Yes.
like you're only telling them
Yes.
half of the story though. Like
Facts. And I guess like we have to learn in stages, we have to learn in layers. So,
sure.
but it can, yeah, it just can be so frustrating when it's like, yeah, like it's like you're you were in 12th grade ready to enter college, and then like you are stuck in a summer in like a second grade classroom type shit. Like it can feel like that. And like I also feel like what I thought of too is how like many higher dimensional beings, like they live as one consciousness. They are telepathic. Like they don't have separate egos as we do. Like their entire society is like one group consciousness, and like our society is too, but we are just not conscious of it. So it's a very like ego driven consciousness. And so
Right.
there's parts of it which are waking up and starting to like expand that, but it's a very interesting time where like things are just starting to shift in that way, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
like if you are used to literally like having people be able to like listen to your thoughts all day, and like you're so connected to these beings which you are like born with and you grow up with and you are around like in your entire society is one group that you are completely vulnerable to, like you don't have that separation anymore. it's it's so it can be such a hard challenge for many starseeds to like come to earth and learn that there are like that you can't be like that, like you do have to have like boundaries, that you can't just be open and give everybody like all your money and all that like you know what I mean. That can be like an urge of certain starseeds, is just like to be so empathic and to be so giving that you know people can just take full advantage of them. And like
Oh, yeah.
I'm all for boundaries, to not get your ass taken advantage of, because we have learned that lesson in that department, y'all.
And I think that the kind of the fucked up part about that is you kinda only learn that lesson by being taken advantage of. Like,
Yes,
there's not
yes.
really like, I have watched friends get taken advantage of and, like, said something and then realized it doesn't
Doesn't
matter,
matter.
like, they're gonna do it
You
and they
just
gotta
gotta
learn
go
it for
through it.
themselves, and,
Mhm.
I've definitely been there where I thought that everyone was just gonna if I was giving, I would get it back, and learning that was
Mhm.
actually a really, really hard lesson because I just thought that if I wanted to be your friend, you wanted to be my friend just as much too.
Right, that
Like
it's all
that,
reciprocal.
but that is you no.
Apparently not.
Not it.
Apparently somebody's gonna tell me they're my friend and then be not a friend, but then they're gonna still tell me that I'm their friend, and then it's gonna like create a whole mind fuck of me that I'm gonna have to unpack later in life type
Yeah, yeah,
shit.
right. Right. And then it just like, well, maybe we're told different definitions of what being a friend is, and I don't
Oh, poor
know.
yo, like big hugs to young Blue.
Oh, and the one thing I will say is the older I get, the more I realize everybody has their story. Like, it may have
Mm.
happened to me way more times because I just didn't set those boundaries. Um, but
Mm.
I do think that everybody has, in one way or
Mhm.
another, thought the best of somebody and then found out something else.
Mhm.
But I like to think that that's usually
Human life.
points in people's life that are low and you are just not realizing that you're on a different frequency. It's not necessarily like,
Mhm.
oh, they're just bad people that just take advantage of everybody. Like I think that plenty of the people that have, quote unquote screwed me over in life, I'm sure that they look back at that and that's not something they're very proud of. And they've grown and
Mhm.
all that, and they're not doing that to more
Mhm.
people. Now, if you are, hey, you should probably look in the mirror. But you did it and you look back, you know, good. You grew up.
Mhm.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I look back at times where I've done that, not realizing
Yes,
that
that's what I
I
was
took
gonna
advantage of
say.
someone before and feeling terrible
Mhm.
about it looking back. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I did
Mhm.
that. Like,
Yes.
oh, you know.
Yes, we all have our I feel like we all have our karmic lessons, and we all have our karmic cycles that we go through, and like I know for me and I know for many other people, if not all other people, like well, yes, everybody. Like nobody's a freaking perfect angel. Like we've all had our times of, and for me, I know I've had deep phases of being like extremely selfish, of being like extremely just so low vibe for like a
Mm,
certain times in my life where I just was a freaking complete asshole. But like now I can look back and I can understand why there were deeper things going on. So like me understanding exactly what you said, it's like you can point the finger all you want and be like, oh, this person is a like I kind of got to the point where I don't necessarily believe in like bad people, as far like I don't believe that people are anybody is inherently bad, but
yeah,
you had shit happen to you, and I can have compassion for that, and I can also say I don't want to be around that.
yeah.
depending on your behavior and where you are in your pattern and whether you are still in that cycle of going back and forth with certain things that I'm not there anymore. And that's, I feel like when you get past that, you kind of just naturally drift away from it though. You know,
Yeah.
you kind of just naturally start focusing on other things and attracting other things. And but when things do pop up, it's like I still view other people in those situations and like try to come to it as like, oh yeah, like that could easily be me if I had gone through your shit. And like I will have to feel a lot of emotions that, like, if I feel angry, I'm going to feel angry. If I feel betrayed, I'm going to feel betrayed, and I can act accordingly. But I can, at the end of the day, know that I will be able to forgive you, and I'll be able to also come back to a place of neutrality with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, some
Yeah.
people hold on to that forever. But to me, it's like, no,
Mhm.
wait, I'll take my side of the lesson, and it's not going to happen again with
Yeah.
the next person.
Right.
And then I can thank you and move on.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I feel you. I can't agree more with anything you just said. Yeah. I feel like I've gone through such similar, like, mindset of just being like, I can only be responsible for my half of it, and,
Mhm.
I can only going forward really make sure that I don't do that to anyone else. I can't really go
Mhm.
back and undo that thing.
Mhm.
But that's why I always have said this forever, even when I was that, maybe slightly selfish, crappy person. I I said this then, life is a lesson. Like, it's all
Mhm.
about learning. We're supposed to be here to learn. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
what if you're not doing that, what else
Yeah.
are you doing? Well, I mean, really,
Mhm.
like, yes, we all have a
Mhm.
purpose maybe, but like ultimately, like, what are we doing here if we're not learning?
And I think, yeah, there's definitely different levels of learning, and like it's on a soul level, so it's not going to make sense. Like like
Yeah.
I think that sometimes people hear like life is a lesson and can almost get mad because it's like I get mad sometimes because like I mean sometimes when you're in the middle of earth shit, you are just in the middle of earth shit and you're like, this is fucking stupid. Like
Mhm.
there is no, like when you think of the deep pains of this earth and the serious shit that is wrong with this world, it's like to say that, oh, all this is like for a lesson, like it's just like when you're in that shit, it's just like you're like, yo, this is stupid. Like why are we doing this? Like like this is not
Yeah.
necessary. But like
Yeah.
still somehow I can have faith that on a soul level it makes sense
Yeah,
somehow.
so this is a very Orion thing of me to do or say, but
Mhm.
and when the shit's actually hitting the fan and it's like the earthly stuff,
Mhm.
it's usually just where can I find a silver lining to get through this? Like, I'm not
Mhm.
trying to find the lesson right now. I just need something to
Yes.
hold on to get through this. I'll find the lesson later.
Yes. Yes. It's like, you know what? Like let's soothe the let's soothe our way out of this or through this, and again, one day it will make sense, but we can just focus on feeling okay for the moment. You know what I mean? It's like you don't always
Yeah.
have to know the lesson right away, but
Yes.
it does it to me that perspective is helpful because it at least means that on some level it isn't for just nothing.
Right. Yeah. And I think that it's always good to go back and, like you were saying earlier, and like reflect on things from the past and just like forgive yourself for those things so that you can do that.
Mhm.
Like, it's just,
Mhm.
it makes it easier because you can't really forgive yourself in the moment when you don't realize it's crappy and you're being crappy and it's just what it is. Like, you can't really go,
Mhm.
hold up, I'm sorry this is happening. Like, like you
Or you do know that it's crappy, but you just have no ability or like knowledge of how else to be. Like you're just being the best that you know how to be in that time, and sometimes that's really shitty because we you know certain parts of you are gonna act out at different times, and it's
and
once you get the idea. Mhm.
I imagine that we both struggle with this in the sense because it's probably our wind energy, like from the Mayan, like of just
Mm.
talking it out. Like, so I'm sure that we have, I hope I'm not speaking for you, but I'm sure you at some point have put your foot in your mouth because you just have this power of just speaking, and you just say these things and you look back and you're like, shit, that's I shouldn't have said it like that, or I should have said
Yes.
this
Yes,
something
you're talking
a
to
different
somebody with
way.
Mercury in Sagittarius, and you're asking if I ever had my foot in my mouth. Like, dude, it's like written in my stars to be like that. It's just like I I've gotten I think I've gotten a lot better, but I do feel like it just manifests sometimes of like I think yeah, you just really don't I'll just be really thoughtless sometimes and I'll just say shit, but then I'll realize like, oh my gosh, like
Shouldn't
my
have said it
bad.
like
But
that.
yeah, like or just a way, yeah, like it, like I won't be cognizant of like saying something, but it will just come out wrong, or somebody will just have a weird reaction to what I say, and I'm like, oh wait, I didn't mean it like that. Like I meant like, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing like happens to
Yep.
me. But
Yeah.
I feel like I'm much better now than I was when I was younger. But like, yeah, I've
Yeah.
gotten some faces in my life that I'm like, should have said definitely.
Oh man.
uh, and there's
So
nothing you could do except just my bad.
yeah,
I'm like, I hope that you forgive me. That's it. That's all you can do sometimes.
totally. Um, so we wanted to talk a little about the
Hmm.
Arcturian,
Yes, let's talk about
Oh
some
yeah.
Arcturian. The Arcturians.
And I thought that it was interesting. One of the articles that I will link is it mentioned that Arcturian and Palladian and Syrian have a lot of similarities. I
Hmm.
don't know if you
Interesting.
knew that. I didn't
Hmm.
know that until today. But
I
I
know
just
they're
thought that
all
that was
very
interesting.
healing.
Yeah,
Like they
they were
are all
making a
kind of like
lot of
master healers in
mhm,
certain ways. Yeah.
very intelligent
Mhm.
beings that it sounded like their intellect is so superior that in human form it almost is the easiest thing is to be a healer, to like that's like the one
Mhm.
thing
It's
that
so
really
innate.
can use all of their powers, and so that's why typically that's the um, career that's
Mhm.
adjacent or
Career
that's
path.
with them,
Mhm.
which I thought was interesting, to be so
It
smart that
is.
you can't really do anything else with this human form except for be a healer, because that's
Wow.
I thought that was fascinating. And since we
Wow.
had
That's
talked
such a
about
cool way to
Palladians, I
put
thought
that
I would
too.
start that
Mhm.
with this because I thought that was so interesting. So maybe we need to talk about Syrian in the next
Mhm.
few podcasts or
Yes,
something
we'll
at some point.
definitely be talking about Syrians soon. They're on the list. We got a list,
Yes,
y'all.
yes. And so maybe we could like
But
kind of talk a little bit more in depth about those three together down the road if we,
mhm.
find some more information that can kind of connect those things together. Because
Mhm.
I just found the one article and I was like, well, I don't have time to deep dive into their similarities of
Yes.
why they're connected,
Yeah.
but I thought that was
That is so
interesting.
interesting. That is very interesting. And I feel like sometimes I'll find things and it's like it will mention like one sentence like that and it's like, oh, that's so interesting. And I want to find out more. And like sometimes like it's not
It's just
there
hard.
to
Yeah.
find like but
Yeah.
or like you just I don't know, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes there is more on it and sometimes it just isn't. So sometimes we have to be the ones to call that in for them to like,
Right.
hey, let us know. Channel through
Totally.
somebody, please. Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's funny,
We would
that
love
was
to
the one thing
know.
that Jeremy had mentioned when, I was telling him about this tonight, was he was like, "That's the thing that kinda sucks is, like, you can't really, like, put out a blast, like, I need more information on this thing. You just have to, like, wait for somebody to be channeled or something," and I was like, "Yeah, basically," and he's like, "Dang, that's, like, a rough, way of waiting to get history," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it's a bit
Pioneers.
difficult. There's a bit of a learning curve to this."
Definitely. But I do believe that if we kind of like, I feel like, especially maybe certain groups are more receptive to this and more responsive to this type of thing, but I do feel like like we could talk to them and be like, hey, we would love to know this, and there would be a greater likelihood that we would get that information. And I feel like the same way that your spirit guides talk, I feel like the galactics can talk to you through those ways as well. So like you might not get an exact like manuscript of all the things
Right.
exactly. You might get that because some channels are just like incredible, but like you can get signs that are pointing you to more information here and a little bit. It's like a little galactic scavenger hunt they put you through. But
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how my spirit guides work sometimes. I don't know if, if you
Yeah.
resonate with that, but
Well, yeah, and all if you like find your like everybody has a different like ease with a certain clair too. So like depending on
hmm
how you channel and things like that,
yes,
it's maybe it
yes,
doesn't
how
come
you
in a manuscript. Maybe
connect.
you actually see a picture, which would be
hmm
so cool. So cool.
Yes.
But yeah.
No, it's interesting that you said get a picture because I definitely know that Arcturians like to communicate with like people on Earth, including many Arcturian Starseeds are especially connected to this energy, but they will like communicate by sending like sacred geometries. Like they will send geometric shapes, like sacred geometric shapes down, and some people get flashes of it. Some people feel the shapes encapsulating their body, and
Mm,
it's very interesting. Like Arcturians to me, like I definitely like the one thing that always like flashes biggest in my mind is like they are like master healers, like and extremely like technologically advanced as well as spiritually advanced. Like it's a very integrated, high, incredibly high level of technology. Like I feel like many of the like very high tech spacecrafty things always remind me of like Arcturian energy, but they're also very good with like sacred geometry and math and the sciences and like it's very interesting to me how they will literally communicate with through sending down geometry. Like that's just their most normal thing.
yeah.
So like an Arcturian starseed, they're like, oh yeah, my daily sacred geometry.
Yeah, right. The thing that just came to my mind as you were talking about that is, are they one that's more apt to do like the crop circle thing? Because I feel like that's usually always
mm,
like geometric patterns and that kind of thing. Like, because I
you know, it's
mean,
interesting.
yeah, because I feel like every time I've seen those, it's always like circles and triangles overlapping or like in a certain
Mm-hmm.
pattern and like very much gives you the sacred geometry like
Mm-hmm.
digitalness.
Yes,
Digitalness. That is not
I
a
wouldn't
word.
be
Do not
surprised.
do not blast me. That is not a word.
Eh,
Digitalness.
we know what you mean.
I like to make up
We get
words.
the meaning. It's
Okay.
all that matters. Sorry, creative license, poetic license. Come
But yeah, like I'm curious if maybe they're the ones that are a little bit contacting us through those like crop circle geometric patterns and things. Like I'm curious if that's
on.
if
That
they're
would
to
be
if they're to blame.
interesting. If they're to blame. Yes, you know, and you know, I feel like there's many kind of different things like that throughout the world, and like my intuition is just telling me that like different ones are put down by different groups, but I think that I it would make sense to me that you're right that like a lot of the main ones and like a good majority of them are probably could be an Arcturian kind of thing. That's like very
Yeah.
cool to think about. That's really really dope. And know what's interesting is like now that you're talking about the like relation with Pleiadians and Syrians, like when you said the crop circles, like I immediately thought of like also Pleiadians like having some type of like just energy that they're putting down, and then I saw like these Syrian symbols like um there's just certain Syrian symbols that I've seen like Syrian starseeds draw before, and and some of those have a very similar energy to me as like some of those things, and like maybe that's a way in which those three groups are as well as like their symbolic systems and their like
Mm,
those their communication through shape might
mm.
all kind of be related in some way, but this is all just
Yeah.
me speculating,
Well,
you
and
know what
I
I mean?
remember Palladians were very good at math. So, I mean, they were vague when in most of the articles I was reading about Palladians.
Mhm.
that just being good at math and art and creativity and that kind of thing. So, who knows, who goes to say that it's not geometry that they're good at? Geometry is a part of math. So, I could totally see them also being easily capable of doing the same things as,
Mhm.
with the crop circles thing. But yeah, geometry is definitely
Mhm.
something that comes up in any search you have for Arcturians.
And
Geometry
yes,
is
that's
going to
like
come up
everybody is like,
somewhere
"Yep,
in there. Yes,
yep." I
absolutely.
feel like geometry, technology, the
Mhm.
healing capacity. I feel like many sources also say they like as starseeds, they tend to actually fare very well on the physical plane, like especially once they kind of have their Arcturian energy integrated. It's like they're very good at like translating all this knowledge into like creating things in the
Mm.
physical plane and like
I think that's
creating new
why,
technologies and all. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's why healing is such an easy thing for them to do because you're moving energy
Mhm.
and that's something that you can easily do and like fly under the radar, so to speak. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um,
Mhm.
the other thing that was interesting of the another similarity between those three, Arcturian, Syrian, and Palladian is, um, dang it, I just lost it.
Ooh. All right, we'll get back to it.
Yeah, let's see
It'll
if it
come
comes
back in
back to
like
me.
5 seconds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll try to say something when it does.
When I think
Um,
about Arcturians, know what I kind of think about is like I don't know why I always imagine them like with like suits, like how like the Star Trek characters have those like suits but those like space suits, but they're very
yeah,
like official. Like I feel like
like
Arcturians have
proper.
this like official energy about them. Like that's just something that I feel like I picked up. It's like they're very like it's like they're very smart. They're very extremely conscious, but they just have this like structure to them that's like
Do you think that
like I'm
that comes with
Arcturian.
the name a little bit? Because, like, think about like the Archduke, the Archangel,
Hmm.
like Arcturian, like that's like it's literally like an overcompassing, like arc being in the name is very like
Mm.
over, like so like superior is always the thing
Mm.
that comes to my mind.
Oh,
So is
interesting.
it kind of like in the word itself that makes you feel like that? Because I could see that
I feel
being
like it's yeah. I think
some
that
of
that's
that.
that's an interesting point because I hadn't thought of that before, and it very well could be. And like yeah, it's just like from when I like will watch people on like YouTube who are Arcturians and all these things. It's like there's just certain like there's a certain energy I pick up, and it's just that. Like I don't know how else to really
Yeah, no,
describe it. It's
I
almost like it's it's like a
official.
certain like self assuredness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think that
Mhm.
Arcturians maybe more than other star seeds have like this self assuredness, like, and that can translate to like doing things very well in the physical plane as well, where it's like you this might be even your first incarnation on earth, but sometimes somehow you're very self-assured of your ability to work energy like on that level, like how we were talking about before. And I think that can translate personality wise, you know what I mean, just the
Yeah.
way that you kind of hold yourself has this certain like air to it, and it's cool. That's just kind of something I pick up from the
Yeah.
Arcturians.
I totally see that. Arcturians are also in our like their planet is in our Milky Way galaxy. Like it's only like 36 light year 3600 or
Only
36
only
36
36
light
light years,
years
I think.
away. Like they're
Mhm.
not that far. Like they're close.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
Um
Oh, and I looked up
and
when they
then
have
the
their
other
dates.
thing the
Yes.
other thing that I thought was interesting about that is not only are they in our Milky Way, but the Big Dipper, so like not the spoon part, like
Yes,
the
they're like
thing,
the
but the
extension
handle
of it.
points to
Mhm.
them. Like so
Mhm.
like you can actually
Mhm.
connect it and it can be part of the handle if you made it a really long handle. Um
Yes, it's like
or it could just be
that
like
bright
a
orange
pointer.
star.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, I thought that was very cool too.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like boop, bright orange
Hey guys,
star.
I'm right here. I guess.
Yes, and I read that it's actually a blue planet. Like that star is the star Arcturus, and this is like a planet that circles that as their sun, and they're a blue planet though that's circling an orange
Mm.
star. It's called Arcturus.
That's
So,
so similar to us.
right?
Like we are literally a blue-green planet circling
Mhm.
a orange. Well, it depends on what you want to look at. I think it would qualify as an orange star. You think
Yeah,
the
like
sun's
I
an
believe.
orange
I
or a
don't know the
red? Like I don't know what it necessarily is categorized, but
yes. It's definitely huge though. Like it's definitely
yeah.
way huger than our sun, which is very interesting as well. Oh, but I looked up the dates of the Arcturian alignment.
Okay.
So that those are like the dates of the year where um it's it lines up with our sun. So October
Oh,
16th and 18th
go ahead.
is when Arcturians are conjunct with the sun, and then
October
April 16th
16th
to
to
18th
18th, and then April
is when it's
16th to 18th.
yeah, that's when it
Interesting.
this well, that's when it's in opposition from the sun, so you could like see it in the sky.
My sister's birthday
Um,
is October 18th.
oh really?
Yeah,
My brother's
that's
birthday is
crazy.
the 21st, so it's like around there. But that literally is like the time. So
Wow.
I wonder if your sis got some Arcturian connection going on.
I don't know. She always is like, when I bring up anything about, like I said something about our episode, last episode being about fairies, and she's like, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Cool." And I'm like, "Yeah." She's my younger sister, so like she's just like,
Mhm.
"Okay, sis, whatever." And
Like
I'm just
you
like,
do you. I'm not gonna
"They're
start some
great."
shit. Yeah, my brother is when I'm like a little bit like that with my little brother too, where it's like I think he's gotten much better now, but like he used to definitely cause I'm just me, like, and especially with my little brother, it's like I'm just me, and I just always say like my wild shit, whatever, like throughout my life,
Right.
like, and he would always just like roll his eyes and be like, okay, like whatever, like just me doing my weird, like saying my weird shit again, like whatever, dude, but like he's gotten more like accepted. Like I feel like I was able to talk to him about like our whole episode and about like my work as like speaking to aliens.
Yeah.
Like I told him I was like, and I was like I'm connected to at least 8 different galactic groups, and he was like whoa, like he was actually like interested, and I'm like oh
Oh my God, you're interested. Okay,
my
sit
gosh,
down.
yeah,
Let's
like,
talk about it.
but it's like it's yeah, it's like with family stuff. It's like we like if they ask me, I'll just tell them like what's good, but I'm not out here necessarily being like you have to believe in fairies.
Um, I remembered what the thing was, what the fact was.
Yes. Oh, let's go.
Okay, so Arcturians, Palladians, and Syrians all have a similar awakening. So
Oh,
whatever that means to those star seeds, usually similar triggers will activate them or like awaken them. So they all carry some sort of similarity that when that thing
interesting.
happens, they all will kind of awaken. And not to say that like, oh, there's like a time and then everybody's awakened. No, I think it's more of like something happens in your life that triggers that awakening.
Mhm.
And all three of those star seeds have similar awakening
Like life
points.
events.
So like for instance, when they're having their awakening, they will in sharing that, they will probably if they have somebody that's like, "Oh, me too, I had that same thing," they're probably either a similar star seed or one of those other two.
Oh,
It's kind of what
interesting.
my understanding was of reading that. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like,
That
it's
is
one,
interesting.
it's always comforting when someone has a similar experience to you, but it's interesting to me that those three star seeds that are while they have similarities are probably very different from each other, all can carry like a similar awakening tale.
It's interest. That is so interesting. Like,
I don't know. I'm interested to meet somebody that aligns with one of those starseed families just to maybe like pick their brain or like see if they've talked to anyone
Mhm.
else just because when you're reading these articles, you have to almost take things for a grain of salt, just like we've probably mentioned in the
Mhm.
past, because to
Definitely.
hold on to any little anecdotal thing in these it could make for a very fictitious thing. I mean, we don't know, unless you
Mhm.
like we've talked about, like unless you're like, really sure and you're tapped in and you can be like, oh no, that's real, or oh no, like you can differentiate between the two. So I do
Mhm.
always like kind of read these articles with like a maybe. But I thought
No,
that
what's
was an interesting
interesting?
thing to put in an article, like, "Hey, by the way."
Yeah, like, that's very interesting because I feel like I it's weird. It's almost like I get very different energies when I kind of tap into all three groups, but they're almost all on the same plane. Like they're all have like a similar frequency, but they just express through different forms. Like like for example, like I've I feel like Sirius I always associate with like a blue color. Like
Mm,
Pleiades, I kind of have this like soft like pink, just like pinks type of colors I associate. And Arcturians like almost like a gray, like a stone cold blue type of color.
like a slate
Or
blue?
almost like a gray,
Like a slate
like a
blue?
vibrant gray, but like all these different colors, like it's like a whole
Ooh,
spectrum that I kind of see, but I
wait,
don't know.
like a
But
French
like it's
blue?
maybe like a French blue, but it's
'Cause a
almost
French
more
blue is like
gray
a
though. Like
gray, yeah, because a French blue is like
yeah.
it's really like a gray blue. Like, I've looked it up a bunch because
Mhm.
we were talking about that being one of our colors, remember? Like,
Mhm.
Frenchy blue,
Yes.
like, right?
Frenchy blue.
Um, and that one was it just wasn't our blue, but
Mhm.
that blue kinda sounds like what you're trying to describe a little bit.
Mhm. But yeah,
Uh,
it's almost like those three groups. It's like completely different colors, but it's like they're all the same like color tone, like the same like it's the same tone even though it's a completely different color, but it's like if it was put up to the same saturation or something, if that makes sense.
oh,
Like
yeah,
or so,
like,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like
like, you're talking about, like, the difference between pastel and neon, not necessarily, like, that kinda thing, like, the brightness of the color or the saturation, yeah, I get
yeah,
totally what you're saying, yes. Like,
it's
it's
like
all
that's
on
what
the
I mean
same
where
level, but it's just
it's
different
all on the
colors.
same
Yeah.
level, but it's different. That's how I kind of feel about these groups, and I don't know how else to like express how I feel like if that connection between them, but like that's the way that I'm kind of feeling it, and that's very interesting. Do you know like this any of the specific like what are the actual things that they all experience when they're awakening, or is it all just like that was it just saying that they kind of had a general kind of similar experiences?
Let me see if I can pull that up real quick because that will be the easiest way for me to tell. What? What? Sorry, the page you're looking for in this blog does not exist.
Oh shit. But that
It
was
was
within
there
24 hours.
today. It was literally there a couple hours ago.
That's almost creepy.
Oh, okay. I re-entered it and it worked. Okay, that's weird.
Okay, good.
Um, that really kind of freaked me out for a second. Um, it says that they share a common heritage and that they've had several lives on other planets. Whereas some star people are born of two Earth parents, starseeds have a third parent DNA component that is extra, that's not relevant to what I was saying earlier.
Oh, that's interesting.
Um, they share similar traits in that they don't feel at home where on here on this planet, which I think is a pretty common
That's
thing
just
across all
that's just
starseeds.
every star seed. Yeah.
Um,
It's cool if we don't know. I was just curious.
You're good. You can, if you want to talk. This is a very short one, so I'm just. Oh yeah, the star seed awakening and activations can be gradual or abrupt. When it happens, they remember their purpose and they begin their mission. Some believe there are 100. Well, this is a fun fact. This is not what we want, but some people believe that there's 144,000 different civilizations with representatives on this planet at this time. Like that.
Okay, so that is a very that's a very specific
I think it's
thing,
a
and that's when people go into like the chosen ones, and that's when there's like
yeah.
prophecies and like
And
um
I think it's enough of a just a rounded number that, you know, I don't think they're getting too specific, 144,000, they're not like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like down to the digit. But, I agree with you that that's where I'm saying, like I always take all of these things with just a grain of salt when I'm reading it, not
mhm.
putting
Well, and
too
I've
much
heard
into
people
it.
say like it's 144,000 souls, it's 144,000 group. Like I feel like it's one of
Oh,
those like
okay.
ancient scriptural type of prophetic things that we don't necessarily, this is my perspective because I've heard many different perspectives, and I think that this is one of the things that I feel like some people use to be like there's 144,000, so it's like it makes you feel like exclusive, like it makes you feel like, oh yeah, we're the chosen ones, where it's like
Mhm.
and it can almost be like one of those things that spawns that like spiritual ego type shit where it's like, oh yes, I'm one of the 144,000, and it's like we don't know if that's the number. Like we don't know. Like to me, it seems like there's way more than that, but
Oh, so what it
we don't know.
basically says, yeah,
But
so what
you
it
said it's
basically,
like
yeah,
groups that were seated. Yes, and that makes sense
yeah,
to me too. Like that to me makes more sense than saying that just 144,000 people alive right
right.
now are starseeds
Yeah, yeah,
basically.
yeah.
But
They're
like,
saying different
um,
civilizations with representatives. So they're being
mhm,
very vague in the sense
mhm,
of, so the specific sentence that got me was, it says that the starseeds have an encoded gene designed to awaken them at a specific time in life. Those three
mhm,
starseeds. The starseeds
mm.
awakening and activations can be gradual or abrupt. So that it doesn't really
Oh,
go
okay.
in much more specifics than that. Um, but and obviously they're saying they're encoded to design or like to awaken at specific times in their lives, but it doesn't say that the situation is the same. It says, you could have it gradual or it could be abrupt. It doesn't have to necessarily
Mm,
be.
so it's the way that their DNA is activated that is similar.
Yes. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. So like I feel like that happens to all of us. So I do still wonder like what it is that makes them more like specifically like each other.
I don't know if that
Um.
particular article was trying to, get on the side of specifics, and that's where maybe that comment comes from, like,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's hard to like
Yeah. Like we
differentiate
don't know.
what they're
Mhm.
saying there. Yeah. Because I would feel as if any star seed awakening of any kind could be gradual and abrupt, and also
Yes.
probably very similar in the maybe feeling alone, or like you're not supposed to be here and I don't understand what's going on. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like all of those feelings would
Yes.
probably happen for any star seed. So I don't really think
Mhm.
that that's too
Yes.
specific for those three. But
Yes.
I am curious where that writer was going with that, because I feel like
Right.
there's a reason it was included. What is it? What's the reason? Expand more on that
Mhm.
part. But I
Mhm. Yeah, we gotta know.
blog. So it's a blog spot. So maybe I could reach out to that blog writer and be like, could you
Like
tell
tell
me
us.
more?
Yes, tell us more. Come on our podcast and tell us more.
Yes. Um, but the other thing that I remember Jeremy mentioning when I was talking about this is he's like, it blows his mind how much, um, let's say, creative inspiration is pulled from aliens for like video games and stuff because
Movies,
there's
yeah.
like apparently Arcturian is in something that he was talking about, and I was like, huh, yeah, I feel like that's on purpose. I feel like you notice that stuff with all kinds of things. Like it's not just,
Yes.
aliens that this is
Mhm.
like this, but I think that we are slowly um meant to digest things so that we like take it in
Yes.
and stuff.
Yeah, I feel
So
like there's all these themes in like media from many outlets, and I feel like it becomes more and more like open and in your face. But like that they've always been there. Like there have been these kind of underlying themes of just different the hero movies and the space movies and all these and the video games, and it is very interesting how like now it can be like so specific, and it's like, oh shoot, they literally are using the name, like, or like even like with Alf, remember when we were talking about Alf, and it's like,
yeah,
wait, they actually use the like Melmac that even sounds like the planet to me, like,
yeah,
and now they're just out here like being like, oh yeah, but if you're not aware of these things, you would just be like, oh yeah, that's just because that's a star, that's a constellation. But like then you realize like, oh shit, that's because it's real, that it's actually really real. And I think that that's part of like that starseed awakening, where it's like you become aware of these things, and then you start to see more and more evidence of like, oh shit, like that's why I
yeah,
keep seeing Andromeda, like that's a company name, that's a this thing, like
right.
it just pops up more and more. It's like a synchronicity type of thing. It's like,
The other thing that I wanted to mention about their planet was you had mentioned that
mhm,
they have a bigger sun than us. So you would
mhm.
think that how can they be a blue planet with so much water and have a bigger sun? Like they are always explaining different things about our particular solar system and the things that we
Mhm.
understand. But with what we understand about our solar system, that almost doesn't make sense if you think
Well, it
about
could
it. But
be
the
like
reason
it could
why
all
is
just be on a
because,
bigger scale. You
well,
know what I mean?
no, the reason why is they live on that planet is because
Mhm.
it has lower levels of radiation and the atmosphere is literally prevents UV rays.
Mhm.
So like that's
Mhm.
how that planet can be a water planet because
That's how it
its
works.
atmosphere absolutely protects them from the UV rays where we
Mhm.
are all putting on sunscreen and things to protect us
Mhm.
from the UV rays. They actually have an atmosphere probably because they haven't damaged it that is able to protect them from the UV rays so they can keep
Yes.
their, blue planet and
Yes.
live there happily.
And I guess also we don't know how far their planet is from that sun, so like, you know what I mean? If it's like proportionally
Yeah,
much further, it's still going to be the same, if not more. And
sure, sure.
you know what
We
I always
might
thought about
we
though?
might be able to look into that. Maybe they know that. Maybe NASA knows that because if they know that the planet is from us 36 light years, they might know how far the star is from us
Yeah,
and be able to
we
get
could
that
probably look that up.
ratio.
Mhm. That would
But
be interesting. I would be interested to see that.
yeah.
Yeah, and like, yo, but no, like, you know what I always thought of though is like, all right, because this whole time that NASA has supposedly been looking for life on other planets, the one thing that they always look for is water. Like they had that thing Roman Mars to supposedly be looking for water, and
Water.
they have all
Yeah.
these. Okay, but to me, this is why this is a flawed endeavor, because because water water is life for humans, because this is the baseline like element that we have developed life from. But if an entire different planet has an entire different base, which relatively equates water to their version of water, which their life has sprung from, and also not even taking into account higher dimensional frequencies in entire different dimensions. So, like, then none of that is relevant anyway. But, like, even just if we're talking about third dimension, like, this is what I, and again, this is what I have thought of since I was like a young child. Like, this is the shit that I'm like,
Wait,
why are
why
they
does
looking
it
for water?
matter?
Like, why is water the thing? Because in my head, I'm always just like, yo, like, they don't need water to be alive. Like, we need water to be alive. You're still looking from your human perspective of what life means to you to look for life elsewhere. You know what I mean? It's like, it's
Yeah, I have a different thought about the whole water obsession. So I'm on the other side of it of they're always been obsessed with finding water on other planets, but like
hmm
we don't even know what's in our oceans. How about we discover our
yes.
own damn water? Like, what do you mean? Why do you need water on another planet? We have water here. Like,
That
we have water. Like, what do
too.
you mean? Like,
No, but it's
so we were
true.
both
Like,
very inquisitive, like, what the fuck kids? And we were just on different sides of it. Like, here, look at the water here. And you're like, why do we need water?
yo, because water is like, it's true. We've explored supposedly more of outer space than we have of our own ocean. But then that makes me wonder, what are they talking about? Like, they can't mean percentage wise because outer space is infinite, supposedly.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, but maybe the ocean is infinite too. What if the
Well,
ocean is infinite,
I
yo?
mean, I mean, who knows? You know, if you watch us and you watch God of Things was talking about Hollow Earth
Oh, yes.
this
Yo,
week or
the
whatever.
hollow earth. Yes, I
Like,
saw
I
that.
mean, what? Like, if that's the case, then
Mhm.
I would borderline argue some infinite is possible. I mean,
Mhm.
we don't know. We don't know. And
We don't
my
know.
thing about the water is a different podcast we watch. They showed a picture of a dehydrated stingray. That shit looks like a fucking alien, man. Looks like an alien. And then that made me say to Jeremy, this just happened before the podcast today. I was like,
Mhm.
see, they talk about seeing UFOs coming up out of the ocean. What
Yes.
if these things, like, we're like, oh, that's just an octopus, but like that's actually an alien
Yo.
species? They've literally talked about octopuses being alien species before. So what if that really
Mhm.
is an alien species? We're just turning our blind eye, like, oh, it's just an octopus. In all actuality, like, no, that is a higher dimensional being that knows way more than you little human being. And we're not
Yo.
allowed to
Facts.
discover the ocean because that's where they live. And so, like, there's an agreement with humans. You don't come here. Go look at the sky as much
Yo.
as you want to, but stay out of the oceans.
The inner earth. And like,
Cause like,
every single president after their first like week in office ages like 10 years, because that is when a lot of the shit is disclosed to these people, is like when they become president. And like, all right, not to get all into this, but like, yo, octopi can open, they can open jars. Like, they're so smart. Like, have you ever seen those octopi that like they just, they shape shift, they become, like,
whatever
they
you put
blend
in front
into
of them,
anything.
isn't that squids? Or is
Maybe
that actually
squid.
octopus too?
I feel like it was an octopi that I saw a specific video of doing, but I feel
I think they
like,
both do that. I think both of those,
anyway,
yeah, it's
they're both,
creepy.
there's some shit, okay? There's some shit there. I think we all feel it viscerally in our bodies when
Yes.
we when we like, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. I love to speculate about all of these things. I love, like the inner earth. Like, me and my friend have talked a lot about, um, yes, and portals, like earth. Like, why is it really that all these different species and beings and interdimensionals have a huge interest in Earth? Why is that? We will talk about this in later episodes because there's a lot to talk about here.
Oh
It gets
yeah.
very juicy, it gets very interesting, it gets very
Yeah,
fun to speculate about.
it was something I hadn't really, like, I had heard, of course I've heard of the book, and I think it's been made into a movie that they mentioned in the episode, like the journey to the,
The center of the Earth.
Yeah, the center of
Oh,
the
yeah.
like, I've seen
I've been
I've
getting signs of that this week. I kept seeing
wow. Well,
that
it's literally
that
in the
same
podcast. Have
thing.
you watched Gotta Sing's podcast this week?
I didn't watch the whole thing,
Oh, girl,
no.
you're gonna need to watch it because, like, it's literally all
I
of
know
this.
because I saw it and I was
So,
like, I'm gonna need
but
for when I'm gonna need a time where I'm gonna have popcorn
right.
and like candy to sit down
I
and enjoy this episode.
Yeah, I
That's how
hadn't really delved into that particular, like, I guess, is that considered a conspiracy theory? Like, I've never really delved into it. Like, I had heard of it, but I've never like really
Mhm.
got into it. So actually editing like for clips that
Yes.
episode, I was like, this is so good. It was so hard for me to clip it because I was just so captivated by the episode because it was just so good. Because there's
Mhm.
just so much stuff out there. Like, how
Yes.
often do people get shushed? Like, it happens all of the
Yes.
time. So, of course, that
Yes.
happening to, I think it was Admiral Byrd, I think is the gentleman
The
that they
guy who wrote
mentioned. Like,
the book about the
that
Antarctica.
wrote his diary. Yeah. Like,
Yes, yes, yes.
that I believe that because it's happened in our lifetime where we have watched people be silenced. Like, it's
Yes.
absolutely possible. So, like,
We have watched
why?
people be silenced, and we've also watched entire forms of media, which is supposedly fictional, literally explain these things to us through books, through
Right.
movies,
Yes.
through video games. Like all of this shit is right in front of your face.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be here. It's okay for these things to kind of be expressed in that subconscious kind of way. But when people really talk about it, it's, yeah, you're either crazy and just put completely away, or like you said, like just completely.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Hmm. And that in
And
itself to me is always a sign that that's something worth listening to. It's like if somebody cares enough to actually shut you up about something, I'm gonna listen to that. You know,
yeah.
that's how it's just how I feel.
Yeah, totally. We're gonna have to sneak in a
Yeah, we're gonna
conspiracy
have to, we'll
episode
get into
somewhere
it.
because
You know,
we obviously will both
we'll get
talk
into
about them
it.
forever.
On the
We'll
other
have to.
hand, I'm like all of our episodes in some to some people, this is all
Is a
conspiracy.
conspiracy. We
Conspiracy.
are a conspiracy. Cosmic Connect is a conspiracy. Welcome to the conspiracy of Cosmic Connect, everyone.
It's the CCC. Conspiracy Connect. I'm just kidding.
Oh
Cosmic
wait,
Connect
that's what we
does
should
not
call.
endorse any false information being spread. It is just simply being speculated upon in a fun, entertainment value way. Thank you and good night, folks.
You have the right to believe whatever you want, people. The
That's
right to
right.
believe whatever you want. So if you want to believe the conspiracy theory that we talk about, believe it.
And let's also remember that the term conspiracy theory was literally intentionally planted by the government around the assassination of JFK. The FBI literally was like, let's call this a conspiracy so that everybody using this information is thought of as crazy, and it has only grown from there. So don't forget that next time you say
My
something is a
emphasis is
conspiracy
on
theory.
theory. Everything in science is based off of a theory. So we're talking about social theory when you're talking about conspiracy theories. That is a social theory. It's theories on social events and views and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a
And a
theory.
theory is it means this is a possibility. And like
Right.
that's again back to quantum minds. Think in terms of possibility.
Yeah. Right. And Arcturians are all about the quantum physics of
They
everything.
truly are so tapped into the
Seriously.
quantum field. It's like,
Because
yo,
they can teleport and all kinds of crazy shit. Like,
yes,
awesome.
telekinesis.
Have you seen videos of people just showing up or dogs just showing up? There's all kinds of videos on YouTube. You can
Yo, they
really
do.
go on down a
Yo, I
rabbit
haven't seen
hole.
those in
It's so
so long.
cool.
Oh my
Most people
god.
are like freaked out by it, and I'm just over here like, whoa, that's so cool. Rewind, play it again. Let's see it. Like, I just like, I want to know what that person, like, is that person an alien? Is that person just a
Mm-hmm.
person at a higher being? Like, what? Like, what? Like, I need to know. Like, I want to do it. I want to
Yes.
know. Like,
Right. And is that like a deity or an alien like becoming physical, or is that somebody physical who's just teleporting there? Is it like
There's so
Oh,
many
there's so many questions
possibilities.
and oh my gosh, like yes, like we have to go more into these like rabbit hole subjects
Yes.
at some point because it's too freaking fire. And like yeah, you know all those like glitches in the matrix and think like signs that you're shifting realities, like quantum like indicators and um the Mandela effect. That's a big one that
Mandela
I
effect.
love to
That
look
one always
into.
I love it, but it makes me mad. There's so many of them that make me mad. I'm like, "That's not
Have
how I
you
remember it. That's not how I remember it." I
have
did
you ever had the Mandela effect happen like to you where it wasn't like a public Mandela effect, but where you're like, no, I know that because I know that
yes.
I came from because I'm like, I know I came from a reality where this was freaking true, but now everybody around me thinks that that's not true. But I'm like, I know that I'm not making that shit up.
Yep.
That
Yep.
has happened to me.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's frustrating.
I
It's
have
like,
some
I
I have
know.
some great stories from that. Yes. Oh
Oh, well,
gosh.
then we'll have to have a whole episode about because that specific conspiracy theory I could talk about for days.
Yeah.
Days.
And how is that even a conspiracy theory? Because it's really just a fact that people like the evidence, the things that people say it supports, the ideas that people say that it supports, maybe that, but it's just a fact that some people remember Berenstain Bears, some people remember Berenstain Bears. Like this is a fact.
I have something my own personal theory to that particular conspiracy theory is
Hmm.
I think Y2K.
Oh,
I
interesting.
think everyone that is like born had some sort of existence before Y2K remembers all of the things that aren't real. And then everyone that's younger than Y2K or doesn't, whatever, they're the ones that are like, no, that's how it was. I don't know what you're
Oh my
talking
gosh,
about.
why do I have the illest? My hair is standing on
Me and
end. Like I
Jeremy
don't know if
came
you
to
can
that
see
one
that.
together. We were both talking about it. We're like, how do we remember all of the things that are not supposed to be like that? But we were
Yes.
talking about it with my little brother, and he is quite a bit younger that he wouldn't remember certain things like that. And so me and Jeremy are like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, what if Y2K is what it is?" That's the line in the sand where it changed.
Oh shit.
Because there was supposed to be this huge, like,
Mhm. Everybody was
power
ready for
outage,
everything to just get fucked.
supposed to be
And
like
nothing truly
EMP,
happened, but did
EMP.
it, you know?
Yeah, it was supposed to be like everything died and everything was fine. So
Yes. We've
or so
experienced
you
that too
thought.
because we made it through Y2K. We lived through 2012. And again, there's many different like
Ooh, what if it's
things that people and like people
2012?
say the Mayan calendar and then people say the Mayan calendar the actual year was like 2020 like around one of these years. So but the thing that I think though is like well these are all very significant events which things great things were foretold of coming. I think that it points to our ability um I think that part of it is that the like almost like the Starseed program is kind of working because it's like the collective consciousness was able to shift so much that people thought that everything was going to die, but we kept ourselves alive because our collective consciousness.
Mm,
And to me, so what those events signify is a huge shifts in the collective consciousness, which from before it you almost wouldn't be able to recognize after. I think that we could say that that is true and great great amounts of people were like awakened around like those times and
oh, I
continuously
like
thereafter because it's like waves of shift, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
I think that the further we go along as humans, like there was a period of time where, at least in our particular country, we're both in the United States. So in our country, I feel
Mhm.
like there's been a lot of things that have been like, well, the government does this for us, so we just give them, like, we just let them have that
Yes.
power. And I
Mhm.
think that the longer it's gone on, the more people are realizing, like, wait, what the fuck are we doing? Like, so they
Mm.
realize that they've given away too much power. So they're
Yes.
going to these other ways of getting back their power. And that's,
Mhm.
enlightenment, like getting into meditation, tapping in, getting to know the higher frequency because when you do that, the things that are going on in our world or in our country, it not that it's less important because it's still incredibly important, but it doesn't seem as it almost seems trivial, and I hate to say that because it sounds like you're literally belittling so many awful things that are happening, and that's not it.
Mm,
It's just you
mhm.
get so higher up, and I think that that's the part that's challenging is that there's still so many people on such a different spectrum or all
Yes.
along that spectrum, and
Mhm.
when you get up here, you're looking down here and seeing all these awful things, and like I don't understand why you're doing that,
You don't
but we
experience
have to
it the
just
same.
share what you have and like your enlightenment and how you got there so that other people can get on the train and the bandwagon, and then they find it, and then the less people are at that lower frequency, the less likely some of these awful things will happen. But that's a little star seed's dream right there, is to just
Oof.
evolve the world like that.
Mic drop.
But
Yo,
that's
I
really the
love
whole thing.
it's it's true, and like there's this like famous quote from Eckhart Tolle, whose name I'm never sure if I'm quite pronouncing properly.
I think that's how
But
you say
and
it.
I'm also probably gonna be butchering the way that this quote is, but it's basically like some people don't have necessarily a specific event that awakens them. Some people just can no longer stand the suffering of this earth anymore. And what I was
Mm.
thinking as you were talking, it's like these
Mm.
these quote unquote like mass events that were foretold, and everybody was waiting for like Y2K and 2012, and now there's always a new one coming up too. But
Mhm.
like the like when we're looking at these things, it's like what's predicted is a death, but then what we in our society forget is that a death is always a rebirth. So
Yes.
it's so one part of society may be experiencing a death at these pivotal points, but you can't have a death without a rebirth. And like anybody who has been through a spiritual awakening has experienced that firsthand and
Mhm.
understands that this is the process which is therefore happening on a grander scale. And like it happens in waves. Like your healing happens in waves, the earth healing happens in waves. And I feel like all of these are just like these layers that we're all peeling off. And it's crazy
Mhm.
to me because I think of how life was, what like when I think back to like before the year 2000 in my life, and it's like it almost feels like everything had a different, and again this is just kind of me remembering my own childhood, so it's hard to know
Yeah.
how other people experience these things as well, but to me it did have almost like a different tint. There was like a different colored tint to life in those
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's just me because of my childhood or if that's like a
Well, I
thing
mean,
that truly changed outside of me.
yeah, I mean, I feel like for me, it may be a little bit of the opposite, but in a
Mm,
different, probably in a similar way. Like, I feel like life was just like the raw footage. Like, it's almost like when you're watching like old film versus like now,
yes.
like everything's like cinematic. Like, and I feel like
Mhm.
my life was just like the old kind of broken film. And like now I see like rose colored. Like, it's just like everything is just like like a plus. And that's just for
Mm,
my personal childhood experience. I think that that's
mhm.
why I have a little bit of like an opposite flip. It's like things were with a filter in a way, but not necessarily a different color. Whereas like I feel like my life is in color now.
It
Like
was
it's
almost to me before it was like a sepia tone. Like everything had that like
mm,
vintage kind of like
yeah, I get what
dark.
you're
It was
saying.
dark.
Yeah.
It felt physically darker, like
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you
physically
on
dark.
that. Yeah.
Even when it was sunny out, it felt darker, and I don't know how to like explain that, but like
Yeah.
if I were to think of like a sunshiny day now, it's actually sunshiny day. If I'm thinking of the sunshiny day from like then, it's like the sun is shining, but it feels dark still. And
Yeah. Well, that might be our trauma showing.
And it's like that tone. Yeah, I mean, yeah, very much. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if that has anything to do other than me, but you know, that's
Yeah.
that's just my personal like difference of when I think of then versus now.
I feel like more like my life was like, you know, how you can get like widescreen? Like, remember back in the day when they first like rolled out widescreen pictures? Like it used to
Mhm.
be like all square pictures, and then they like did
Mm.
widescreen. It was like this whole
Mhm.
different image.
Yo,
I
I do
feel like
remember
my
that.
childhood was like you only got the square box because all the other shit was behind that box. Like,
It's like
if that makes any sense. Like,
our
so like
yo, and
my
that's
whole
how
life
it's a
now is
reflection.
wide, like the wide
Yes.
view. So it's I don't
Yes.
necessarily because I agree with you in that, but I think that that might be our trauma showing. I feel like back in like
Maybe.
the 90s and 2000s, I feel like everything was more about like what you could put in just the front view. Whereas like
Mm.
now you can't just show the front view. We will find the wide view.
Mm.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, and you mean perspective-wise as people.
Well,
It's like we
perspective as
can't,
well as just like I feel like in the
and also
90s,
just physically.
in the early
Mhm.
2000s, like we all were so like family sitcoms were the rage, game
Mhm.
shows, like, and still some of that stuff exists, but I just feel like everything like nowadays, like they put disclaimers on the beginning of trigger warnings at the beginning of the episode, and then they talk about like school bullying. Whereas back then, they would like sugarcoat
Mhm.
it around and make it seem like, oh, they're just jealous of you, like instead of like actually
Mm.
addressing the bullying aspect. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like
It
now,
was normalized.
well, and I feel like it was more like rub some dirt on it and you're okay.
Yeah, like it's like
You
this
get what I'm
is just
saying?
normal. Like it's like
Yeah,
there's
like
no like there's nothing to shield you from because it's like bully like what you mean? Like of course bullies exist. Like,
right. Yeah.
now it's like bullies used to be the cool kids and in old TV shows and old movies and now no longer are like bullies the cool kids. Like that is
Yep.
a huge different
Right.
thing from like,
Like I just
you
feel like
know,
there's just was so much spin on things, and now there's spin on it, but nobody is blind to it, if that makes sense.
yes.
Like back
Yes,
when in the
it's like a narrative that still
yes,
continues and we know where it
but we're
comes
all just
from,
like,
but we
yeah, we
don't.
know.
Yes,
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 yeah.
yes. But
Like,
we're
so
like,
that's
we
why I'm
also
saying,
get
like,
that
I feel
that
like
doesn't have to be
it was
me.
more focused.
Mhm.
Like, look at what's in here. And then, like, now we're like, no, 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 we know that you're only showing us this. We know what's all going on. Like, you get what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah, no, like I feel like definitely the internet had so much to do with that because I think of this often too, where it's like when my dad grew up, like through the hippie era and all those things. It's like the radio, everybody was watching the same things on TV, and everybody was listening to the radio, and both of those are formats where like the mass media can speak to people but people can't speak back. Like the newspapers are telling you what can tell you what to think. There's and like people from that generation tend to have one vast narrative that like people can believe different things, but overall I feel like people from that era will by and large believe things in a more similar fashion because they were all conditioned so perfectly, almost like they were almost, you know what I mean, because they
Yes.
all had the same source. But like once the internet happened and like all this diversity happened, it's like we could actually talk to each other and like we could actually look up our own sources, and people started to live in their own little worlds more than like a collective world. Like we get to choose what music genre we're into. We don't all just listen to the same songs on the radio.
Yeah.
There's less and more that connects us at the same time.
Yeah.
It's
That
insane.
right there, everything you just talked about could be a whole episode because seriously,
Mhm.
that is a
Mhm.
positive and a negative all wrapped up in one nutshell because it's like it's good that we're more connected, but that more connection has made us disconnected in our communities, which is what we've talked about in episodes
Mhm.
in the past. Like
Yes.
those two things seem so polar opposite for them to come from the same thing. They come from the same
Mhm.
source. And so that's a very
That
interesting
it is.
conversation that you can literally
Yeah, we can talk
spiral
about for
on.
days.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
you know, we can talk for days, but let's
About
just I'll
anything.
just I'll just bring this back to the Arcturians real quick and say like to kind of tie everything up, and I feel like we're about time for us to be
Yeah,
wrapping up for the day, right? But I
yeah,
do feel like the Arcturians are, I think as humanity progresses, there has been, and maybe there always will be, but I know especially at this time there are great concerns over technology and like where we are going as humanity as far as like our technology goes, and how connected do we as people want to be to technology versus like it feels almost like technology or mother earth, you know what I mean? It's sometimes it feels like a vast difference, and something that I think is so cool and very just something about the Arcturians is that they merge spirituality with technology. And so it's not like it doesn't become this technology with the Arcturians that I think many of us fear, where it's like this technology that ends up becoming like taking over the world and is like used for evil purposes. But like we can use technology. Ooh, I just had something spit out my mouth. We can use we can use technology for, you know, for very divine purposes and in very divine ways and in a way that is connected. And I think that the
yeah.
Arcturians have an innate sense of that, where I think maybe some other starseed types might be even more wary of all technology in general, whereas like the Arcturians are just masters of that balance, you know?
Well, and I think that we can agree that there's positives and negatives to everything, but with technology, the positive is the connection. And
Yes.
that is something that's so profound. Literally, without technology right now, we wouldn't even have this podcast. Like, we're able
Mhm.
to communicate not only with our voices, but also in a video format. And
Mhm.
we're not in the same area, the same state. We're not completely across the country from each other, but I'm in the middle and she's on the east. Like, that's a significant, incredible thing that we get to do, and we wouldn't be able to do that without technology. So I do believe that
Mhm.
there can be good in this thing. It has revolutionized
Mhm.
our lives as human beings. We have
Mhm.
capabilities of travel and capturing moments and sharing them with others. And with that, we can share awareness and grow from learning from each other distantly. Like, and
Mhm.
that is why we have the internet and why all of these
Mhm.
things should exist. And if
Right.
we can figure out how to use it for the good, then we're going to be a little bit closer in the vein of the Arcturian people, or
Absolutely.
or
Absolutely.
starseeds. I don't know how you want to call that. Arcturian species, like family.
Yes. Arcturian Star Fam.
Yeah. Like, I think that that's the thing, is
Absolutely.
they probably have mastered that balance and we're still trying to figure that out. We're a little bit
Yes,
behind them.
and like yes, and I think that that is why many Arcturians are here, is to like be the light showers and to to kind of guide us in that direction of things going well. Because I mean, as much as some people may want to like wish this be true, like technology is not going anywhere anytime soon. Like we're not going back to
No.
a time where it doesn't exist. So we need to then be very intentional with the direction that we're going with it. We need to be conscious in how we're using it, and like how we're developing it and where we're developing it for, and like what purpose, what is our intention. And I feel like Arcturians. I think that I almost, I get the sense too that there's like a lot of Arcturians who are like not even necessarily like awakened. Like they don't, like they may just think, like they may not be aware of a lot of the things that we talk about on the show, and yet they are like working in these fields in this
Yeah.
day, and they have this like subconscious like connection and understanding, and like kind of helping to guide humanity in a certain direction as far as like those things go. And like that's a very cool thing to think
Yeah.
about as
Yeah. I
well.
totally think that's probably the case for most starseeds, but I feel like
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
the Arcturian, I feel like we definitely need to take a key from them because somehow they figured out how to balance technology with their world because it's
Mhm.
still blue. Like, and I feel like
And
blue
to
is a
have
very healthy sign of life. And
mm,
somehow, in some way, in our planet, our technology is hurting our planet if we don't learn
mhm.
how to use it in moderation and certain things. There's a lot of energy that's
Yes.
contributing to climate change and all of that stuff. And so, those things are important. Like technology is important, but there's also a balance of, you know,
Yes.
our planet and tech. So,
And having technology that heals and that solves those
yes,
problems versus
yeah,
having technology that creates those problems. Like,
right,
definitely, definitely. So,
100%. Well, if
shout
you
out to the
ever want to
Arcturians.
tell us about
Mhm.
what you think about this episode, of course, comment below. Email us
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
cosmicconnect.frenchieblue@gmail.com. Or you can
Mhm.
connect with us on Instagram, which is
Mhm.
cosmicconnect.frenchiblue. Um,
Or on TikTok, which is
yes.
Cosmic Connect the podcast.
And then I'm
All
at,
these ways for you to get in touch.
yes. And then I personally am at blue.river.
And I am at Frenchie V. That's Frenchie XVII. It's been lovely hanging out with you this evening.
Been lovely hanging out with you too. I did one quick shameless promo. I did launch a couple products yesterday.
Yes! You
They,
did! Tell
I
them
did.
about the
So
product
on the
launch.
13th, yes, on the 13th, I launched 13 foot scrubs and foot soaks. It's the Abundance Foot Scrub and the Revitalized Foot Soak. I have not sold out of them. So if they're still for sale when you get this episode well, I think two
You would
weeks
be
from now,
very lucky
you
if
better
they
check it
are.
out. If they're still there, you better buy them. I will have more, but until my life calms down after the move, I won't. I will probably just sell out and then restock when I'm a little more grounded.
So you better get yours while you can, because we don't know. It won't be immediately that we'll have a restock.
We
And
just
your
don't know
feet
when.
could be so abundant.
We do
And
so
they will
much for,
spread that abundance to your whole body and your whole aura and your whole energy field. You'll be walking around like a
yes.
freaking goddess, god, deity, freaking thing
I need
filled with the divine cortex
to,
signature
yes.
abundance foot soak.
I'm gonna have Frenchie do my ads for these. You did great. Well, we love you. We love you, Arcturians. If there's any Arcturian Starseeds in our family so far, please tell us. We would love to ask you questions.
Yes. Yes, let us know how we did at talking about your energy, at interpreting the vibes. Do you feel
Yeah.
like we got some things on point? Did you feel like we were what the fuck? That is not my peoples you're talking about. Let us know. Let us
Yeah.
know. Get in touch. I
Well, I love you, girl, and I love all of you
love
humans,
you. And I love
Starseeds.
you too.
Peace.
Peace.
And
We love you.